We don't realize that we're, maybe a strong way to say it is we're cursing our future. You can curse your future or you can bless your future. So be careful what you say.
By every visible measure, megachurches should still be winning. Huge buildings, millions of online views, best-selling pastors. But behind the numbers is a different trend. After 2020, many megachurches quietly lost between 30 and 40% of their weekly attendance. Among younger Christians, the drop was even sharper. This wasn't a rebellion. There were no protests. People just didn't come back. And that silence tells a story no sermon ever addressed. If nothing went wrong, why did so many leave at the same time? For decades, American churches followed a simple idea. If more people came, something good must be happening. So churches built bigger rooms, they added more services, they removed anything that felt difficult, slow, or uncomfortable. The goal wasn't to change belief, it was to reduce friction. By the early 2000s, this approach reached its peak. Megachurches didn't just grow, they scaled. Former sports arenas became sanctuaries. Worship looked like a concert. Sermons were shorter, clearer, and carefully timed. Joel Osteen didn't invent this model, he mastered it. Lakewood Church became the most visible example of what this system could do when everything worked. Attendance surged, messages traveled worldwide, faith became easy to enter and easy to stay inside. From the outside, it looked like momentum, but systems built on momentum don't notice what they're losing until movement slows. What if growth wasn't proof of depth, but a substitute for it? The entire system rested on one quiet belief. If people kept showing up, something meaningful must be happening. Attendance became evidence, growth became validation, the crowd became the proof. For years, no one stopped to ask what the crowd actually meant. Then, in 2007, someone inside the system asked a question it wasn't designed to answer. Bill Hybels, the founder of Willow Creek Community Church, had built the model others copied: comfortable services, high production, massive reach. If anyone had reason to trust the formula, it was him. Instead of measuring attendance, Hybels commissioned a study to measure spiritual growth. The results were not dramatic. They were worse. People were attending more, serving more, and giving more, but many felt spiritually stalled, not challenged, not transformed, just present. The system had taught people how to attend church, not how to grow beyond it. Hybels admitted it publicly. The church had confused participation with formation. It should have changed the direction of the movement. It didn't, because by then, the model depended on scale to survive. Buildings needed filling, staff needed salaries, budgets required constant expansion. Depth slows crowds, scale rewards simplicity. The blueprint kept spreading anyway. If the problem existed when buildings were full, what would happen when the rooms emptied? In March 2020, church doors closed across the country, not by choice, but by necessity. Parking lots emptied overnight, coffee bars shut down, children's wings went silent. The experience disappeared in a single week. For megachurches, this was supposed to be temporary. Leaders moved fast, cameras were upgraded, streaming platforms improved, online reach exploded. On paper, it looked like success. Millions watched from home. Some churches reached more people online than ever before. But something changed when the crowd vanished. Without the lights, the sound, the shared energy, the message felt different. Not wrong, just thinner. Sermons that once felt powerful in a packed room blended together on a screen. The same structure, the same phrases, the same promises. When buildings reopened, leaders expected relief. They expected people to rush back. Instead, the seats stayed empty. Churches that once welcomed 10,000 saw 4. 5,000 became 2. At Lakewood, ropes appeared where people used to sit. Entire sections closed, and the numbers didn't rebound. The pandemic didn't cause people to leave. It gave them space to notice. If the experience only worked in a crowd, what was it actually built to do? Jennifer had attended a megachurch for nearly 10 years. She volunteered every month. She never missed a Sunday. Church shaped her calendar and her friendships. It felt stable, reliable. In November 2020, she watched the service alone on her laptop. The music still swelled. The message was still positive. The production was still polished. But without the crowd around her, something felt exposed. She noticed how familiar every phrase sounded, how predictable the structure had become. For the first time, she asked herself what she was actually learning. So she stopped watching, not out of anger, not out of disappointment, just curiosity. She started reading longer books, listening to slower conversations, asking harder questions. Months later, she walked into a small church with fewer than 70 people. No screens, no stage, just quiet prayers and shared silence. She didn't feel inspired. She felt present. Jennifer didn't lose her faith. She lost her attachment to the system that had been carrying it. And she wasn't alone. Across the country, the most committed people didn't leave loudly. They drifted quietly. The volunteers, the organizers, the steady givers. When they didn't return, the damage spread fast. When committed people leave without protest, who notices first? The leaders or the numbers?
By 2023, the pattern was no longer personal. It was measurable. Across the United States, megachurch attendance dropped between 30 and 40% compared to pre-pandemic levels. Among younger Christians, the decline was deeper. Nearly 6 in 10 attended less often or not at all. This wasn't a pause, it was a shift. Lakewood Church reflected the same trend. Before 2020, weekly attendance across multiple services reached into the 40,000 range. Today, the 16,000-seat arena no longer fills. Entire sections remain closed. Cameras avoid empty rows. What once required overflow now requires consolidation. Other churches followed the same path. Saddleback Church saw sharp attendance drops after leadership changes. Staff positions were cut, ministries closed. Willow Creek, once the blueprint, declined even faster. Campuses shut down, partnerships dissolved. A movement built on growth struggled to survive without it. This wasn't about one pastor or one city. The same story repeated in different states under different leaders with the same outcome. Systems designed for constant expansion don't downshift well. When attendance falls, revenue follows. When revenue drops, structure breaks. The numbers didn't cause the collapse, they revealed it. If this wasn't about failure, then why does it feel like something ended? It's easy to make Joel Osteen the face of this decline. He is visible, wealthy, symbolic, but focusing on him misses the real story. Osteen didn't invent the megachurch system. He inherited it. He perfected it. He understood media, scale, and optimism. Lakewood paid off massive loans. Millions watched online. Osteen stopped taking a salary years ago. By every measure, he was a competent operator. The collapse wasn't personal, it was structural. The system rewarded comfort over challenge, reach over roots, polish over depth. It created churches that functioned more like content platforms than communities. When content moved online, the physical gathering lost its advantage. Technology finished what the pandemic began. Sermons became click-accessible commodities. The incentive to keep people in the building disappeared overnight. In other words, this wasn't a fall. It was the inevitable consequence of a model built to scale, not to sustain depth. If the system is flawless at growing audiences but fails at forming them, can it ever recover? Younger Christians see faith differently. They want honesty, struggle, and complexity. They crave a space where doubt can exist alongside belief. Megachurches, by design, offer the opposite: certainty, polish, and simplicity. Every sermon, every song, every screen is carefully crafted to remove friction. For decades, this approach worked. Families, older adults, and casual attendees thrived in a smooth, predictable experience. But younger generations began to notice a gap. The church felt more like a production than a community. Participation became performance. Engagement became consumption. Even when online streaming reached more people than ever, the very audience the system was built to attract started leaving. They didn't need a megachurch for a well-produced message. They could get that anywhere. What they needed was depth, challenge, and authenticity, and the system wasn't built to provide it. When the culture shifts faster than the model can adapt, what happens to a system that thrives on predictability? Across America, megachurch buildings still stand. Screens glow, lights turn on, the music plays, but the energy that once justified their size is gone. Rooms that once overflowed now sit half empty. Staff positions have been cut, programs have shrunk, budgets adjusted to fit a smaller reality. Some congregations adapt, others sell their buildings. A few are converted into gyms, community centers, or retail spaces. The Crystal Cathedral, once a glass monument to religious optimism, became a cautionary tale. Lakewood hasn't closed. Joel Osteen still preaches. Millions still watch online. But the system is thinning, quietly, almost imperceptibly. Something else is happening outside the spotlight. Smaller churches grow slowly, house gatherings multiply, online communities replace buildings. Faith moves back into conversations, not performances. The model that defined an era no longer meets the needs of the next generation. The megachurch didn't end with a scandal. It ended with silence. And when the crowd goes home, when the show ends, what replaces it matters more than what filled the seats. For now, that future remains unwritten. If scale no longer equals meaning, what comes next for faith in America?